I'll hand it over to Laureta. Thank you.
Thanks, Luciano. Well, good to see those of you that I know again, and nice to see some new faces as well. So, as Luciano said, my name's Laureta, and I'm the General Manager of Media and Communications at the NFF. And that also entails taking care of a few special projects, which is National Agriculture Day, and also our larger initiative called Telling Our Story, which at National Ag Day falls within. Telling Our Story is all about building agricultural social license to operate and connecting consumers with farmers. So today in my presentation, I'm going to give a bit of a background to NFF, which will be old material for some of you. So I hope it's not death by PowerPoint. Then just dive into what Telling Our Story is all about and the latest activities there, and then on to Ag Day. So while I start my screen sharing and hope that that works seamlessly, I'm going to introduce a newish recruit to the NFF, Ben Norton-Smith, who is our Vocational Education and Training Project Officer, or Manager, I'm not sure, Ben, sorry. Manager I'll go with. And I'll hand it over to you, Ben, just to give a minute on what that role entails and what it's aiming to achieve.
Thanks, Rhoda. Yeah, hi, Ben Norton-Smith. I joined the NFF about six or 8 weeks ago. I can't remember now, kind of time flies. The project itself is in conjunction with Skills Impact, and the nuts and bolts of what we're looking at the moment is to review how, one, the vet sector can bolster the training needs of the workforce that we've got at the moment, but also we're looking at how we can reinvigorate the workforce by changing job descriptors and pathways within the industry in conjunction with the available vet courses and pathways that are available at the moment. And this is on a national approach. I realise a lot of it's been done state by state, but I think this is the first time the NFF has definitely engaged on a national level. So thank you very much. I'll talk a bit more about that later when Laureta has done up.
Thanks, Ben. Okay, sharing my screen now. Cross fingers. Okay, so everyone see that cute little boy in the blue shirt? Okay, great. So as I said, I hope it's not death by PowerPoint, but I am just going to give some background to the NFF. Okay, so the NFF is, as our name suggests, operates pursuant to a federated model. We have about between 30 and 35 members. It changes quite often, actually. But you see there the types of our members, so state farming organisations, peak commodity groups, what I like to call special interest groups. So you might have Farmers for Climate Action, Soils for Life might fall into that category. And you also notice there on the third line, NFF Horticulture Council, and that's something relatively new to the NFF. We've brought the literal fruit salad of horticulture peak bodies together to form a horticulture council to tackle what is quite a substantive number of policy issues facing those sectors at the moment. And just to reiterate what I said before in terms of we have those peak industry bodies and state farming organisations as our members. So common misnomer is that actual individual farmers are members of the NFF, but they're not. Those organisations are, and individual farmers are members of those organisations. So many of you might have heard that a couple of years ago, the NFF launched a plan for agriculture to be a $100 billion industry by 2030. So to put that in perspective, we're currently around about a $60 billion industry. And if we did nothing, and when I say that, I mean farm gate output. Oh, sorry. Farm gate output. So output. If we were to do nothing now, despite the drought and the challenges of bushfires, the industry's on a trajectory of growth, and we get to about 80 billion by 2030, so somewhere between 80 and 90 billion. But we don't think that's quite ambitious enough, so we've developed a plan, or what we call a 2030 roadmap, with a whole heap of targets and aspirations across those 5 pillars that you see there, about how to get to our sector to 100 billion. And For interest, and for most interest, I would imagine to this group is the goals that we have here under the people and communities pillar, which we have. There's just a snapshot there, but of our goals. But one is to double the number of tertiary and vocational agriculture graduates, and to increase our available workforce by 25%. We of course have a dire worker shortage in agriculture, from semi-skilled to skilled. So it's really important that we do some work there. Otherwise, it's highly unlikely we'll be able to achieve our $100 billion target. So to talk more in in recent times, so here's the roadmap that I was speaking about, the 2030 roadmap, which is our plan for $100 billion. But in response to COVID, we've also launched the Get Australia Growing document. So in July, our President Fiona Simpson presented at the National Press Club. It was televised. It's still on iView if you have some time to catch up on it. And it was just it's a plan to how we can really, in the immediate to short term, what agriculture needs from a policy sense to really put our foot down and power the nation's economy on the road to recovery, because unlike many other sectors, agriculture really hasn't been at the coalface of the COVID crisis, and we're wanting to do our bit now to help the economy get back on track. So in terms of about the NFF and where you'll find us and how you can get our information, we have quite a number of different platforms. So here's our home platform, which is nff.org.au, and that's where you'll find all the information about our members, our positions on policies, on key policies. You'll find that 2030 roadmap, the COVID Get Australia Growing document. You'll find the information about who's on our board and also who's on our committees and task force. Where our committees and task force are really include representatives of our members, and they're the engine room for where we develop our policy. Your Australian Farmers is the home of, it's a consumer facing platform. So it's home of the Telling Our Story initiative and of Ag Day as well. This Ag Day has its own website, but you'll easily find yourself going towards Ag Day on Australian Farmers. And you won't find anything on there in terms of sort of dry policy information. It's all about telling the great stories of our farmers, having recipes, DIY information, and really importantly, you'll see there's a classroom portal there. So if you jump onto farmers.org.au, click on that classroom portal, you'll find an array of classroom resources, including from PIEFA, from Prime Zone, and from some other organisations. We're also the Secretariat for Farm Safe Australia, so that Farm Safe Australia might be also of interest to you, to teachers, because particularly in rural areas, obviously, children do make up a unsatisfactory number of farm deaths. So it's and I know that a key priority of Farm Safe is to start with school-aged children even before, about instilling good farm safety practices. So that website's about to go under a bit of an overhaul. They've just received a significant amount of government funding, which is great. But we're the secretariat of that, and there's an executive officer that we work pretty closely with. Another important resource is Farm Hub. So the NFF was funded by the federal government to establish Farm Hub as a hub for drought resources. So drought resource from federal, state, local government, from charities, from everywhere, because it was all disparate, and we wanted to have a really quick and easy place where people could find information about health and wellbeing, finance, of course, and any assistance that was out there. That website has really carved out a niche for itself with the year that's been. So we pivoted from drought straight away to using Farm Hub to provide bushfire information to farmers. And that was getting updated really regularly, from actually dealing with the fires that were burning to the recovery process to what was on hand. And then, of course, to COVID. So lots of information on there about border restrictions, etc. And also of interest to this group would be the jobs portal that is there. So the jobs, farm jobs, we're expected by March to have a 26,000 deficit in workers in the horticulture sector alone. So there are plenty of jobs going on Australian farms right now. You jump onto that jobs portal, you'll find a link to lots of places, but I think the best place to go to is the Harvest Trail website that the federal government runs. Straight away, I was on there today, you'll see a pop-up. A farmer in Griffith needs 100 cherry pickers pretty soon to get their crop off. So encourage you to check out Farm Hub. Something really exciting that's coming soon is the Regional Tech Hub, another federal government funded project. So some of you might have be familiar with BER, the Better Internet for Regional, Rural and Remote Australians. So that was a volunteer group that was set up to help people get connected, whether it's SkyMust or any other sort of connectivity. It was becoming quite a big task, and the government thought they'd take it on and pay an organisation to set up a similar organisation, and that happens to be the NFF. So we're be launching at the start of December the Regional Tech Hub, where we'll have people at help desk helping people work out their connectivity issues and just giving them general advice about connectivity technology. Any questions on that before I go further? Okay. So telling our story. Telling our story is the overarching initiative that envelopes National Ag Day and many other things. It's as the peak body for Australian agriculture, we have long thought, I've been at the NFF for 4 years, and I know it was a conversation that was being had around the tables long before I joined the NFF, that we needed to do something to secure the sector's social licence to operate. And so last year we established what is pretty much an internal working phrase, but telling our story as an initiative to do just that. And because NFF's a not-for-profit organisation, we had to find people who were able to, who believed in what we were trying to do, but were able to help us financially. So our partners in the Telling Our Story initiative are MLA, Nutrien, of course, formerly Landmark, and Woolworths. And our real beacon on the hill for this project is for agriculture to be Australia's most trusted industry by 2030. So going back to that $100 billion vision and the 2030 roadmap. I'll whiz through a couple of these slides because I know that there's quite a lot of slides, but the project is overseen by a panel of esteemed Australians, headed up by Fiona Simpson, our president, but also featuring celebrity chef and a farmer himself, Matt Moran, Alison Watkins from Coca-Cola Amatil, former CEO of GrainCorp, Richard Goyder, Robbie Sefton and Jeff Maynard, who is a cattle producer from CQ, and he's representing MLA on this advisory committee. So all of those people there, although they have other pursuits in life, they all have their own farms. So a strong vested interest in agriculture. So we're embarking on this, this project to better connect Australians with agriculture and as a result increase our social licence to operate. We thought we needed to do some research. So we had some anecdotal and then, well, we had a gut feeling really that Australians felt pretty good about farmers and affinity with farming. I mean, we saw them open their hearts and wallets to the tune of millions of dollars when we were in drought. But we also thought there were some emerging issues about what farmers do about farming. So we're citing the fish deaths in the Menindee last summer and the summer before last, and the questions that were raised about cotton growing in that region. We think about animal welfare queries. We think about people questioning the use of glyphosate. So we did that research, and it revealed that the most alarming statistic was that 63% of Australians feel some level of disconnect with rural Australia and agriculture. And we actually think that the panic buying that we saw at the start of the pandemic is a symptom of that disconnect, that Australians just have absolutely no idea how much food we produce in this country, and that we could feed 3 times our population, and that just because in any 1 year, and just because you might go into a supermarket and see that there's no pasta on the shelf, it doesn't mean we've run out of wheat, or the red meat section's pretty bare, doesn't mean that we don't have any red meat. And really, I think that talking to people about our food production capability as a nation really needs to start at a school level, and I think that's where obviously PIEFA and our teachers come into it. So one part of telling our stories is connecting with Australians via the campaigns. So like I said, we thought that the panic buying was a symptom of the disconnect. So in March, we launched a campaign called Got Your Back, telling Australians not to panic, don't panic buy. We're really working, continuing to work from home. We're experts at working from home. We're uninterrupted. We're getting on with the job. Spread the word, tell your friends, calm down with the panic buying. And that campaign actually was received really, really well from people in the bush and in the city. We had, backing that up on social media, about 20 videos from actual farmers saying, you know, we're here, we're still in the dairy, milking your cows morning and night, don't worry. And there was a message there that we really felt strongly about being there for Australians in these tough times, like so many Australians have been there for us when we're in severe drought. And most recently, and what's current in market now is a campaign called Back on Track, and that features the stories of 6 farmers. We talk about their everyday extraordinary efforts, how they've managed some challenges of COVID, namely not being able to access workers, but overall how they are trying to they're working hard to get the economy back on track and to get the nation back on track in general. So far, you know, we think we've reached about 12 million Australians with the Back on Track campaign. We've done a lot of social media. The Got Your Back campaign, we think, reached about 6 million Australians. So National Agriculture Day, 20th of November, Friday. So this is our 4th National Agriculture Day, and hopefully you can see the connection that it has with the Telling Our Story initiative. It's about celebrating our farmers, but by doing that, it's about talking to people about what, you know, how much food we produce, how many people we employ, what we're doing in terms of contributing to climate change solutions, how we look after our animals, and how we want to just be connected with the community, and we take the community's sentiment and expectations really seriously. So in previous years, as you can see from those great photos there, we've had a presence in the CBD of Melbourne and Sydney on the morning of Ag Day, handing out apples and other agricultural produce to the morning commuters. We've had influencers come out in force wearing the I Love Farmer shirt. You'll see Matt Moran there. You can see some NRL players. See a couple of chaps from the block who I have to say I don't really know who they are. But also we had Sam Armitage, who is a country girl herself. She's always a supporter of Ag Day. So this year, in our 4th year, every year the Ag Day AU trends on Twitter. Of course, we want to do that again, but we've got some KPIs there. I won't run through them all, but we want it to be bigger and better, notwithstanding the challenges and the different environment we're operating in with COVID. So we've actually worked with local show societies through the Australian Agricultural Shows Association to encourage shows to have long table lunches. Many shows have been cancelled, and we've said to them, why don't you bring the community together in a COVID-safe manner and toast your farmers and the produce that's produced in your area. We've said that it's not just for show societies. We're asking anybody, families, community groups to come, or businesses, have a long table lunch, or a barbecue or a morning tea, or whatever suits your schedule. Register on the Ag Day website, agday.org.au, and we'll send you out a bit of a goodie pack. The other flagship event we're doing it's a flagship long table lunch that we've actually done for the past few years as well. So it's actually going to be hosted by Matt Moran at his Sydney Wallara restaurant, Chiswick, where we bring together about 6 farmers with about 10 influencers. So writers, bloggers, social media personalities, people that have a voice on the issues that matter to agriculture. So whether that's sustainability, climate change, animal welfare, food. So we bring them together and have a really, what I call a lightly choreographed discussion about those issues. So I've attended only one of those lunches, that was last year, and it really was quite impressive how you saw so the barriers break down, and when these people that the people that attend the influencers are there because they're not radical detractors of our industry, but they're not avid supporters either. They're people that are on the fence and have got questions and often write about those questions. But you saw them sort of relaxing and really just literally becoming more informed as they were having these one-on-one conversations with the farmers. So that promises to be great. Again, tapping into this is something that we'd really love to see kids and schools get involved in as well. So we're tapping into the home baking phenomena where people have been, cooking sourdough and other goodies. We're asking people to make lamingtons. Now, please don't hold your peace if you don't think lamingtons was the right recipe choice. That was the biggest decision of the Ag Day, of this Ag Day 2020. Would we do scones? We do banana bread? We do muffins? We do lamingtons? Anyway, we've landed on lamingtons, and that's all about celebrating the eggs that go into the lamingtons, the wheat that makes the flour, the dairy products. Unfortunately, we couldn't get any meat in the lamingtons, but hopefully there'll be a fair amount of meat featured at those long table lunches around the country. But I think this is something that schools could potentially get involved in as well, and certainly students at home. So talking more specifically about schools, so really from the outset, I think when National Ag Day first came about, the first conversation was about we need to get schools on board, because like I said, educating people, connecting people with agriculture, where their food comes from has to start at a school level, and maybe preschool. We don't want Australian kids growing up thinking that chocolate milk comes from a brown cow, or that cotton comes from an animal. So we thought that National Ag Day was a feature that we could get on the national school calendar and be a springboard that can to do things throughout the rest of the school year. So and to be completely honest, we feel like we haven't reached our potential with our school engagement yet. And that's why we're just so pleased to have Luciano's enthusiasm for this year's Ag Day, and just generally working with us on telling our story as well. So what we're working on, and I'm sure Luciano, I'll just give a bit of a spiel, but it'd be great if you could give an update on where it's up to, is the Farmer Time Initiative. So as many of you know, what used to be referred to as FaceTime a Farmer, but Apple took didn't like that too much. So FaceTime a Farmer, using Ag Day as a platform to really promote that to schools, and hoping that they'll roll that out throughout the year at other times within the year. So that's all about a farmer, whether they're on the harvester, in the dairy, in the sheep yards, beaming into a classroom from their phone via video, so the kids can get a real look at what they're doing at that very minute of the day, and a bit of an explanation about what they're actually doing there. Luciano, I might give you the floor for a minute just to talk about what the uptake's been with it, and your vision for Farmer Time as well, outside on Ag Day and outside of Ag Day.
All good, thanks. Well, I'll talk first about National Ag Day. So we have producers representing all our industries on National Ag Day, but because we have so many industries and there are lots of teachers who, for various reasons, can't run and engage in National Ag Day on the day, we have activities spread over the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of that week. So what we have is a number of producers targeting different year groups. So we have upper and lower primary, as well as upper and lower secondary, and producers in time slots from 9 till 4 on the Thursday and Friday, which we're about to. We have published sticky tickets for the actual Friday, but we're about to release more information about the Thursday. So schools can sign up for those sessions. And so a little bit different to the previous years, where we're trying to get maximum number of schools engaged with individual producers. Whereas normally the Farmer Time activity is a one-to-one activity with one classroom linking in with a producer anywhere along the supply chain, but which is our normal procedure, because sometimes teachers have a specific need. But in terms of National Ag Day, we're trying to get as many schools, maximum potential of schools engaged with Farmer Time and with National Ag Day. And so that's our aim at the moment. So we've locked in the Friday. We just need to lock in a couple more individuals for the Thursday, and then we'll release all that information out.
And Luciano, is it a good geographical spread of schools taking part, or is there an area where we need to build some support?
Well, I'm trying to get more schools in Victoria engaged, and with everything that's going on in Victoria currently, you know, they're in a different space. So, but I'm working on that at the moment. But really engaging, you know, I've got schools from across the country that have made contact, and you know, it's all about meeting their needs, because a school day has different class times and different breaks and everything. So it's a real challenge to try and meet the general needs of schools across Australia and the different time zones as well. So you know, we're trying to do our best to make that happen for.
Yeah, that's great. Well, maybe we should connect tomorrow again about if we can help through our members get some farmers on board. That won't be a problem at all.
Fantastic.
But like the ethos of Ag Day in general, because it's about making it what you want. So the NFF really only has a team of 3 of us working on Ag Day in earnest, and so we can't possibly run a national day all ourselves. So we say to people, just do what you want. We're suggesting this year to have a long table lunch, but if you want to have a barbecue or a morning tea or a quiz night or something like that, a games day, you do that, and that's all good. It's what suits you. And it's the same with schools. So, you know, I think if you're lucky enough, if you're a rural school that you've and you've got a farmer that could actually come in and bring some wool or bring some grain or maybe even bring a cow. Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's the thing to do in the schoolyard, sorry, but if it is, you know, just think really creatively about how you can bring Ag Day into the classroom. So, you know, things like worksheets, Luciano, we talked at the start, didn't we, about some of those sorts of initiatives.
Look, a number of teachers have indicated to me that they're having activities each day. So it comes down to the individual teacher. If the teacher's going to be enthusiastic about that week more than just that day, because you know, it really comes down to what works with the whole school schedule. So it'll be different in each school context. But I guess it's giving teachers the opportunity to think about what can work and what can't work. And obviously with social isolation issues and the like, it's a little bit more challenging this year, but it's about giving teachers some ideas, because not every teacher will have an idea of how to make it happen in their context.
Absolutely not. Okay, so we can have some questions at the end on that or anything else, but I'll just finish. I've only got a couple more slides. So the other nifty thing we're doing this year, following on from other years where we've had key landmarks lit up, we actually this year have worked with some of the big things that mostly have a farming nature to light up green for Ag Day. So the big bananas going green and the big ram at this stage, and we've got maybe some to be confirmed. It's actually been quite an insight into who runs the big things. They're a bit of a law unto themselves, to be honest. For a while there, I thought the big ram just ran his own show and he didn't have any keepers, but we tracked down his shepherd, and they're happy for us to light him up green. So the last thing is that, as you have seen through this presentation, we have some Ag Day merchandise. So we call it Ag Day merchandise, but it's actually available throughout the year, and it's more about I Love Farmers than Ag Day. and we do send out a limited pack of this merchandise to people who register on agday.org.au for an event. And excitingly, probably tomorrow, hopefully, all going well, we're actually launching an online shop for a very affordable price. You can buy an apron, a t-shirt, a sticker, a hat. I don't think you can't buy the tattoos, but which I know to all of you is a disappointment. But yeah, so that's that. So that's that is actually my presentation. And sorry, it's only gone for half an hour, but hopefully there's some questions. And I was thinking maybe we've got Ben on the line, and with just the situation we find ourselves in now, we might need have a discussion about how do we get young people involved in agriculture more to address that worker shortage. But over to you, everybody.
Well, good. Would Ben like to share with us some of his perspectives?
Of course, yeah. So the initial phase of what I'm looking at the moment is that I've been talking to our members in depth and trying to get my head around exactly sort of the issues that we've seen in terms of new engagements across the industry. And the large sort of proportion of our members at the moment, and I've still got a fair few other people to get around, have come to me and said, well, actually, there's no career pathway for new entrants coming into the industry. And that goes across, grains, and it goes across cotton, all the way up to sort of the Northern Territory and the cattle associations. They're struggling very much at trying to engage the sort of the year 12, anyone coming out of that school, because I think a lot of people are telling me at the moment, and I'd love to get a bit of an opinion piece on this, is that there's a great push in the young years to educate in agriculture, to understand where food and fibre comes from, but then there isn't at the later stage going into that year 12 a shift towards a viable career. And I think a lot of factors have come into that, and it's not just an Australian phenomenon; it's a global issue. I mean, I've encountered this over in England as well. Is that we're not seeing it as a fun, sexy industry to go into anymore, and we're more and more being pushed a little bit towards city jobs or something that has a professional qualification to it. And that's something that is coming across a lot at the moment as well in my research. And one of the challenges that I'm facing, and I want to, I suppose, put a framework together to showcase actually how professional an agricultural career can be. The idea behind that will be isolating sort of the skills and the responsibilities for each position. And then we can say to new entrants coming into the industry, okay, well, this is actually a very accurate depiction of what we're doing. It's not just, sitting on the back of a tractor and mucking out, or, sort of sitting on the back of a quad and riding up a field, or, just labor. There's actually a lot that goes into this. We've got an accountancy aspect, we've got data, we've got people skills, we've got qualifications that can back it up, and hopefully this will translate to a professional trade more and more. So that's where I am at the moment with the research. But I'd like to know a little bit more about the work that's been going on in the school levels, and whether or not my ideas have correlated more or less with what you've seen as well.
Ben, I might jump in there. I think if you're talking to agriculture teachers or any of us, we're already on board 100%. Mm-hmm. And it's like preaching to the choir. But one of the key criticisms that I was involved in, I think, for New South Wales Education Department, and we identified one of the key problems is careers advisors in schools, who seem to be completely ignorant of agriculture careers, agriculture training.
Okay.
And careers advisors are very special people. And I'm saying that sort of fairly carefully. There seems to be, from my understanding and experience, two sorts of careers advisors. Ones who are brilliant and would come on board, and a fair proportion who are close to useless. So it's a particular challenge there because of that.
That's quite interesting. What sort of backgrounds do they tend to come from? Are they generalist?
They're a teacher.
Yeah, they're all teachers.
They're teachers decided they would take that role on.
Okay.
And I've worked with careers advisors who were spectacular. And I'm not talking agriculture, I'm just talking about advice and help for kids, and where to go after school and what training to do is all part of that. And there are other ones that I'm not entirely sure what they did.
Okay. And from an industry point of view, if there was more of an educational component to those career advisors, if we were able to go and sit there and showcase our careers better, is that something that we should be focusing on?
Careers progressions, career development, I think would help that. And there's that perception, and you talked about it, that farming, and unfortunately a lot of school agriculture teachers have perpetuated this, that farming is low tech, high labour.
Yeah.
And we know that's, although there's a component of that, and there is in almost every job, we know that the world's changed a lot, and our farmers now are, great businessmen and technologically adept and all those sorts of things. So yeah, there's a perception there, particularly in the urban area. And also I think you need to look at, like, urban students, and I spent most of my teaching career were dealing with urban students, have this perception, like as the west of Sydney, that they have to go over the mountains and out to somewhere else to be involved in agriculture. And we know that the reality is not that that's for on farm, but there are so many jobs with requiring people of high skills off farm, and I don't think that story is told either.
Okay. That's good. That's a great insight, actually.
I'll just mute now and let someone have a chat.
No, thank you.
Ben, coming after you here, I'm chair of PIEFA, and I spent my career in vocational education, and it's very much under-resourced. It's high cost, and it's never been recognised by government that if you want to train people in a hands-on vocational environment where every day is different, it's not in the shed, it's outside, you need to pay for it, and that's never been accepted. Practical agriculture, I'm talking about practical agriculture on farms, which then, if you've got good farm training there, that'll lead you on to all sorts of things off farm. It's never been paid for properly, never been recognised properly, and it gradually drifted away. And often farmers are their own worst enemy, because they say, I don't want my child to go farming, and they make a big public thing of that. They make fun of it, which is not particularly good for the industry, but that's just human nature. But I think there needs to be good policy work at the federal government level to increase the amount of funds that are available per student to train people in vocational education and agriculture. Unless that happens, as an educational provider, which I was involved with, we're able to keep doing it for all sorts of reasons. And the college, Tokyo College, is still doing it very well. Mm-hmm. But it's there's not too many others that are still doing that for all sorts of good reasons. And I think if this has been going on for many years and people work away on it, but unless government is prepared to pay more money to train people in these areas, it won't change. For example, if you look at the quad bike issue, one of the issues to reduce accidents on quad bikes is training. Some will say that's not necessary, but if you are trained and you have properly prepared quad bikes, there's probably less chance of you being killed or injured, or having a child ride a quad bike. Mm-hmm. But fortunately, New South Wales government has spent a lot of money and supported quad bike training and other sorts of things in New South Wales, but it hasn't happened, to my knowledge, in other states. So that's the sort of work I think needs to be done at the federal government level, and it has to be lifted in priority by the industry, because at the moment the industry has many other things to be concerned with, and rightly so, and vocational education doesn't get much of a look in. So I'm delighted to see your appointment. I wish you well, and I'm only too happy to assist you, and full marks to the NFF to putting you on. And if I can assist you in any way, if PIEFA can assist you in any way, we certainly will. But it's a challenge, but good on NFF and good on you.
No, thank you very much. No, I'd love to be able to touch base one-to-one on that, because you've highlighted a couple of issues that have been coming across, and the one thing that I take out of that really from my end is that the New South Wales at the moment are the only state that are really funding any vocational training on farm at the moment, but that's in part with industry. So we know now that we need a lot more industry engagement, and now that's coming through to us. We can then work on a project like I'm doing at the moment that we can hopefully engage change on a federal level and have a national approach to it. But I'd love at some point to be able to touch base with you one-to-one potentially next week.
I'll be delighted to, and I'll do everything I can to help.
Indeed.
And a lot of work's gone on for many years in New South Wales to get us to where we are.
Yeah.
And, DPI New South Wales is doing a great job in that area, and there's a lot of policy work still happening. So there's money there. It's just a matter of diverting it to our cause. It goes to other causes. There's all sorts of areas where this money goes, but we need to step up. And I think all the work our farming organisations have done and continue to do is helping our cause. So we have to ride along on that sort of support. I'm sure we can do it, and I'm sure you can do it. So let's do it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Indeed. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Cameron and Dave. Does anyone else have any questions?
No, just so
like if I forget, sorry, Lynn.
On Cameron.
Just to point out, thank Laureta for her report and her engagement with PIEFA. It's been very good, but Indeed. I'll hand over to Lynn. Sorry about that.
No, not at all. No, not a question of handing over at all. I was just going to say thank you. It's been most interesting for me. Yes, Laureta, I did obviously know some of the stuff about NFF, but it doesn't hurt to be reminded. And exactly showing the breadth of programs that you're doing was really interesting. I was flicking around on your website while you were talking and kind of going backwards and forwards. But yeah, and it's nice to hear what David's doing. It's just encouraging to come together with other people who are trying to do the same thing as what we're trying to do. It just makes you feel better, doesn't it? When you get up in the morning and think we're not alone out here pushing this around. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Lynn. That's lovely. And I just wanted to plug for those of you who have Year 12 students that might be thinking of something to do in the break between uni or deciding what they're going to do, is that, of course, there's lots of vacancies on farms now for fruit pickers and all sorts of short-term seasonal work. But what might make it more attractive is that the government's incentive for Australians to take up farm work started on Sunday. So Australians of any age can claim $6,000 back in travel and accommodation costs if they can prove that they've headed out and undertaken farm work. So how to prove that is really a letter of engagement from an employer. And also there's temporary changes to the youth allowance eligibility that I'm not 100% across all the details, but I think it's dramatically dropped the threshold that people have to prove in terms of independence. So have earned a certain amount to be able to qualify for youth allowance if they're actually doing farm work. So much easier to get youth allowance for those to help out while studying if you can, I think something like earn 15,000 doing farm work, or something where it might be a way higher amount to be than if you're working in a bar or something like that. So it's a serious incentive that if you do have Year 12s that you're talking to or uni students, just let them know about those incentives on offer.
Laureta, do you have a link on the NFF site to that information?
Yes, we have a media release that we put out on Friday. It's got a link to the to both the youth allowance and the $6,000 incentive. The $6,000 incentive is reasonably straightforward. I'll be honest with you, on Friday when I was trying to find the youth allowance link, it was pretty unsatisfactory on the government website about how to find the details. So there is a link there, but it might be difficult to find the information. Yeah, sorry. Blame Centrelink. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's worthy of trying to promote.
Yeah.
We can put it out in our next newsletter too.
Yes, we can. All good. Anybody else have any questions? All good. Laureta, do you have any further comments?
No, I don't. But please, I just encourage people, just don't hesitate to get in touch if you have any other queries or need anything from the NFF or from Ben and I. All right, and also just celebrate Ag Day, of course.
Indeed, that's the most important thing coming up. All good.
Definitely.
Well, I just wanted to thank Laureta and Ben for contributing tonight for our PIEFA Forum for November. Very grateful for your time and to give us this insight. And we will promote this across our networks and spread the news about National Ag Day and all the wonderful things that NFF are doing in Australia at the moment. So trying to encourage as many schools to get involved and general public with some fantastic events coming up. All good. So thanks again.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone, for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.